For today's card, I have one of my favorite techniques. It's called Faux Batik. Absolutely gorgeous, the colors in that are. So to introduce the products we'll be using, I have the shaded orange blossom stamps. We'll be cutting out the flowers with the matching orange blossom die. This is the complete petal. And I'm also going to be using the orange blossom leaves and the matching orange blossom leaves stamp. They are really nice and have matching stamps and dies for both of those. We're going to be using the large oval here from the Cathedral background. I'm going to be adding a little bit of detail with the swirly lace edger. And the sentiment comes from the Live, Laugh, Love sentiments. It's a clear stamp set from Creative Expressions. And we'll be doing some embossing with the Bed of Roses embossing folder. This is an A4 size embossing folder. So let's just start right in on our background. So what I've done to begin here is I've done an aperture using the larger oval in the Cathedral background. I've done that first, and then I've stamped around the edge with the orange blossom stamp almost to the end here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that off. Put a little bit of an anti-static pad there for us. I'm going to bring in my clear perfect medium to do the stamping. Ink up our orange blossom stamp, and we're just going to lay it around the edge here. Parts of it will go off the page, that's not a problem. Ink it again, and try not to overlap it, but get as much on there as you can. Let's see if we can get one more right about like that. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and emboss this with some white embossing powder. Bring in a piece of copy paper. And this is the Creative Expressions True White embossing powder. Just sprinkle that over my stamped image. Tap that off. Bring my heat tool in. And you can see it change. Okay. Now let's tidy this up. And I've made a little bit of a mess here, so let me get some kitchen roll and just clean this off. Okay, we can move on. Okay, the next step is once you've got it all embossed, you want to put folds into this. Just take and fold it randomly all the way around. You can do some what we call mountain and some valley folds all over, and this will simulate the cracks that you get in real batik. Batik is basically, it's an old Japanese art where they take their pattern and they draw it or paint it out of hot wax, and then they submerge it into a cold dye bath, and that causes the wax to crack. So you get these little lines coming through. So that's what we're simulating here. Just get it all sorts of folds going all sorts of directions. The more you can put in there, the prettier it comes out, I think. And then don't forget to turn it over the other way and do some this direction. There we go. So I personally would probably fold that a little bit more, but you get the idea, and you can do that on your own project when you're doing it. So next you're going to bring in a squirt bottle, and we're going to just give it a nice little misting to start. And I'm going to bring over two colors of our color cloud. This is your Decadent Teal, and this is your Decadent Grape. There we go. I'm going to use some Smoothies here, and I'm just going to add some color randomly around the edges. We're going to pick up some of those folds and just bring some really nice pretty color to it. There we go. You can see how gorgeous and bright those are. There. A little bit more. In fact, I can even go back to the grape and add in a tiny bit. You can leave some white areas if you like. In fact, I will just pop you over there. And you can give it a little bit more of a squirt. And that will start to mix and blend those colors in. All right, and we're going to give it a shot with the heat tool. Dry it off. You'll get some purples coming through between the mix of the two colors. Okay, and let me just give it a quick wipe down on my craft mat, clean it up. Okay, so now you can see some of the cracks and the lines coming through where the ink has settled into them. So what I would do is run this through and flatten it out with a embossing sandwich or put it under a book, and it'll be nice and flat. And then we can bring one back in that we've done earlier. And what I've done here is I've used the smaller oval in this set. See, there are two concentric ovals there. And I've cut another aperture and just put it underneath. So I've got just a little bit of a frame going on this one. I think that's really pretty the way that looks. And you can see how the color varies between if you leave little areas of white. I've filled this one in so it's a little darker. You could even go back in and add color on top of this and get the intensity to build up. You know, just whatever you prefer on your own projects. Okay, so I've got the frame ready to go there. The next step is I've stamped my sentiment using a black archival ink. And I'm going to do some embossing with this, using the bed of roses here. And let me just see which side I want. I think I want this side. Pop that into place. The sandwich for that is the gray base plate, the embossing folder with your card, and the raspberry adapter. And I will move these out of my way over here so I don't knock them. And we'll run that through the grand caliper. The embossing will just give it a little bit of texture, but you'll still easily be able to read your sentiment. Okay. And pop that off. Let me grab that. There we go. So you can see how pretty that looks. Really like the way that comes out. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the center of my frame, but if you can see, it's actually, even though it's a fairly big sentiment, there's quite a bit of space there. So what I thought I would do is add a little extra detail using my swirly lace edger pieces. So I've cut two of them in white, and I'm just going to pop them into place in the top and bottom of my frame. So I'll do them one at a time and just sort of eyeball where they need to be, right about like that. And get this one here. We will pop this one going this direction. I'll tell you what, let's turn it around. Grab it at about the same spot with the mounting foam. And just check to make sure I haven't taken it down too far. Nope, that looks good. So now I can peel off the rest of my mounting foam here and center my sentiment. Just I'm going to have to lean into it a little bit. That looks really nice. So you can see how pretty that looks. And that just adds in a little bit extra detail and kind of fills in that empty space there. So I'll put that onto my backing and then we'll move forward from there. Let's just, oops, excuse me, let's just use a little bit of glue. Okay. I've done my usual piercing around the edge there to frame it nicely. Pop that into place. Now I wanted to add kind of a floral element to my card. So I have gone ahead and cut several of the orange blossom flowers and the matching orange blossom leaves. And I've gone ahead and stamped all these with the matching stamp as well. And just to bring out a little bit of that detail, I'm using the pointy end of the smoothie here, and I'm just going to work it into that stamped area so you'll be able to see a little bit of the white veining coming through from your stamp. Pop that in. Just work that right up the edge there a little bit. So you'll have what looks like a really pretty pink center into your flower. There we go. Move that out of the way. And I think I'll bring this over and do some little bit of forming before we assemble the flower here. Use my stylus and just give it push on the back of that, and that forms that nicely. We'll do this one. Takes your flowers from being a really flat flower into a little bit more dimension, which I think is quite pretty. Some Cosmic Shimmer glue in the middle here, and we'll give that a second to set up. I've done what I call a messy bow out of some white seam binding, so we'll go ahead and add that while we're waiting those for the flowers to set up. And I'll put that on with some glue dots. I'm going to seat that right into the corner of this frame here. Okay, that should be about ready, like that. Give that a second, and I've got an 8mm pearl here for the middle of it. I like to add a little glue under all my pearls just to make sure that they stay nice and secure on the flower, so we'll give that a second to set up. And I'll go ahead and put these two in the corner. And we can do a tiny bit more forming with them too if you like. They've had their moment on the pad just to give them a little bit of dimension, but when you put them onto your card you can add a tiny bit more if you like. And a smaller one just as a cute little accent there. I think that's really nice. And our flower, or our leaves. Now these are a white on white, so they're probably a little bit difficult to see on the camera, but it does add a really nice dimension in person. So having the matching stamp for anything is so much nicer. You have a lot more of your detail come through. Pop that under the side here. There we go. Just so it shows from underneath there, and I will use a glue dot on the back of my flower. That should be almost dry now. There we go. So isn't that gorgeous? I just love the way that background just frames in your sentiment and really just pops it out. I can't, love this technique. Any colors work with batik. If you prefer to have earth tones, they work great. It's just a beautiful technique and gives it a little bit more interest.